All right. Let's go back to our original sales data. January was 10,000, February was 8,000, and March was 9,000. And now we're going to put together the cash collections budget. So we're going to copy this over. Oops. January 10,000, February 8,000, and March 9,000. Now we don't need April and May for the cash collections budget, but what we are going to need, we needed these back end months for production and purchases. We're going to need the front end months. So we're going to need December the year before and November the year before on the cash collections budget. So we've got this as our forecast. And remember, you may be making a budget for next year, either late October or this time of year, November. And so you may not know exactly what those numbers are. These um, may very well be estimates as well. So we're going to say that November, December are big months for us of, let's say, 14,000 and 16,000. Now, as it turns out, each one of our units sells for $250. So one of the first things we have to do is convert these to dollars. So we get 2,250,000 there. Here we're going to get 2 million. Here we're going to get 2,500,000. We'll get 4 million for December. And November, I think it's going to be 5,500,000. 3,500,000. All right. Now, in order to do the cash collections budget, I found the easiest way, and the way most books present it, is to create a matrix. And before we get to there, let's put what our experience has been on collections. And let's say that we get 60% in the month of sale, and these can be anything, right? Because if we're in the if we're in the business to business community, we often give 30 days same as cash on our credit sales, and so most of our sales may actually come in the following month. So it can just be, you just have to pay attention to what your collections history is, and let's say 25% get collected in the month after sale. Of course, a few people are going to slow pay us, so that's 10%, 2 months after the sale. And of course, some aren't going to pay us at all. If we knew who they were, we wouldn't have sold to them, but we don't know in advance. 5% are uncollectible. Now, the mistake students often make with these uncollectible accounts is they try to subtract it from something. When we're talking about cash collections, we just forget about it. When we're doing the budgeted income statement, then we've got to take, let's take March here, $2,250,000 minus our 5% uncollectible accounts will be our actual sales, right? Will be our projected sales figure for that. And so we do subtract it when we're doing the budgeted income statement, but we don't do it. We just forget about it when we're doing the cash collections budget. So now we're going to set up a matrix. And so we want the first quarter. So it's going to be January, February, and March. And then we're going to go down this way: November, December, January, February, and March. Now, I have found it best to start here in the middle, and so we can go ahead and put in the numbers here: 14,000, or I'm sorry, 3,500,000 here, 4 million here, 2,500,000 here, 2 million here, and 2,250,000 here. Now, I have found it best to start with January, where we're going to collect 60%. So 60% of 2,500,000 is 1,500,000. And then we're going to collect 25% of 2,500,000. The 625,000 will be collected in February. Lines here. And then 10%, or 250,000, will be collected in March. And then 5% will be uncollectible. All right, 125,000 of that will be uncollectible. Okay, well, we're not going to collect any of February's sales in January, so we can just skip that. And 60% of 2 million is 1,200,000, and 25% of 2 million is 500,000. And then we're going to have accounts receivable, and you can do an accounts receivable or not, depending on what the question is calling for. Let's go ahead and put in an accounts receivable here. And the accounts receivable will be for the whole 15%, right? When you do that, it won't just be, if you were to put April here, then you would just do the 10%. But if we're going to do the accounts receivable, we do the whole 15%, which would be 300,000. Okay, then March, well, we're not going to collect any of March's sales in January. We're not going to collect any of March's sales in February, but we will collect 60% of 2,250,000. And that will be 1,350,000. And then the account receivable will be 40% of that, of 2,250,000, which will be 900,000. All right. Okay. Now we go backwards, right? We're not going to collect. We're going to collect the 60% in December. So now we just have to worry about the 25% in January, which is 1 million, 25% or 1,000, and 10 million, which will be 400,000. And we're done collecting. Okay. And then the same is true with March and February here. We're not going to collect the 60% of November. That's in November. We're not going to collect the 25% of November and December, but we are going to collect the 10% of November in January. So that will be 350,000. And now we just add these all up. So that'll be 2,850,000 is expected to be collected in January. 2,225,000 will be expected to be collected in February. And then, what is it? 2,100,000, I believe. Let me check that. 250, 500, and 1,350,000. 2,100,000. All right. And then so that's how much will be collected in each month. If you want to look at the quarter, you can add all three of those together if you want to. Would be 7,175,000 would be collected in the first quarter of the year. That is a cash collections budget. Just remember, just forget about the 5%. That is uncollectible.